Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Takenoko Chibis from Madagot and Bombix. This is the first expansion for the game Takenoko, which I have the giant collector's edition of right here. And I will point out right up front that this is completely incompatible with that collector's edition because this has new tiles and cards that are of the smaller size, whereas Takenoko Giant Collector's Edition is giant. So those do not work together, which is a shame. I actually had to borrow a friend's copy of the original version of the game, but hopefully they'll make a collector's edition someday in the future. Now, if you're not familiar with Takenoko, it's one of my favorite games because it's a very light gateway-style game with incredible production value. You are trying to manipulate a bamboo garden in order to get victory points with hidden objectives that have to do with moving a gardener around and making bamboo grow with really cool wooden bamboo pieces, but also having a panda miniature walk around and eat that bamboo, and also trying to get the right tiles and lands out on the table. Now, what the expansion adds is another panda, a female panda, that can mate with the male panda from the original game and make little baby tokens that give you special abilities. There's also new tiles that have new special effects, like letting you grow bamboo in different ways, and of course, new objective cards. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at everything that comes in this expansion. Then we're going to come back and I'll let you know what I think. Alright, this is everything that comes in the Takenoko Chibis expansion. As you can see, you have new plot tiles. There's actually extra bamboo because some of the plot tiles are going to require you to put out quite a bit of bamboo, so let's give you some extra just in case. You have the female panda herself. I'll explain what she does in a moment. You have her baby panda tokens of 3 different colors, and then you have new objective cards as well. Alright, let me go ahead and explain the new plot tiles first. Now, you'll notice one thing all of them have in common, and that is the chibi female panda face on the bottom of each of them. What that means in general is that anytime the first time one of these tiles comes out, the female panda enters the board on that tile, and now she is part of the game. We'll get back to what she can do and how she moves around and everything like that, but that is the common thread between all of these different plot tiles. So first we'll start with the Sacred Hills tiles, and there are 3 of them, 1 for each color of bamboo. So they are treated as normal bamboo tiles, which means that if they're irrigated, you put a bamboo onto them. But from then on, whenever the gardener would land on one of these tiles and therefore make bamboo grow on them through the normal game means, you now make a piece of bamboo of the appropriate color grow on every single tile in the garden of that color. So if I land on the green, every irrigated tile, let me clarify that. So if I land on the green tile, every color of every other green plot in the garden that is green and that is irrigated will also have a piece of bamboo grow on it per the normal rules. And also, just like with the regular tiles, you can place an improvement on these since they are bamboo tiles, and they just function like the normal improvement tiles, whether it's the panda pen or the fertilizer, irrigation, and so on. Next, we'll go over here and talk about the Camus Garden, which is actually my favorite new tile, and I almost wish there were more of them. What this is, as you can probably imagine just from looking at it, this counts as all 3 types of plots, the green, pink, and yellow. Meaning for any kind of objective card, it counts as all 3 colors. If you irrigate it, then you put a piece of all 3 types of bamboo onto the plot. If the panda lands there, you choose the regular panda. You choose which of the types of bamboo that you want to eat. If the gardener lands on the tile, he makes 1 piece of bamboo grow of each color as well as all adjacent colors. But if you do land on one of the regular plot tiles that's attached to this, let's say you land on the green one, and then this happens to be irrigated, only the green will grow here. Also, if you use the rain effect of the die on this tile, and it's irrigated, you have to choose which of the 3 you want to grow, not all 3 of them grow. The Celestial Pond is a brand new irrigation source. You know how there's the central tile, which counts as irrigation, so every tile that's placed adjacent to it is irrigated, and then it also serves as a source for the irrigation routes. Well, now this one counts as the same thing. When it comes out, when you place it, if you choose to place it, when you're doing the the plot action, you just place it down and it serves as both a new source for the irrigation routes and it will irrigate every tile that is placed up next to it. So it's just essentially a brand new central tile. And then lastly, you have the gardener's hut here, I believe it's called. This one's kind of cool, actually. When it does nothing except it doesn't grow bamboo, it doesn't act as irrigation source, nothing like that. But if the gardener stops on this plot tile, you are allowed to take the top, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. You're allowed to take the top card off of each objective deck, look at it, choose one of them, and put the others on the bottom of the deck, or discard them, or /discard them. Which is a really interesting thing. It's another way for you to get objective cards into your hands, perhaps more efficiently than the regular objective actions. So it's just a new way to get those. All right, so let's talk about the main event, and that is the female panda. Now, like I said, she comes out when any of these new tiles comes out for the first time. She'll be placed onto it. From then on, you move her exactly the same as you would the original male panda, meaning you can move her either with the panda action or you can move her with the lightning bolt from the die. However, you move only one or the other of them. You choose which of the two pandas that you're going to be moving. Now, she does not eat bamboo ever. She does not act like the male panda. You're never going to be able to eat bamboo with her. However, if you move her onto the male panda's plot tile, and if the male panda happens to have any bamboo in his stomach, you collected any bamboo with him, and you still have it in your possession, you can discard one of those pieces of bamboo in order to make one of the babies. Don't ask me how that's supposed to work thematically, that you have to exchange food for this service, but there you go. So here's all the different tiles of the baby tiles. There are 3 different colors, and there's 3 of them for each color. I just thought I'd show off the artwork because it is pretty darn adorable. And all 3 sets are essentially the same. You have, first and foremost, they're worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. So it's pretty worthwhile to take them unless you really need the bamboo that you collected with your male panda. And each of them has a different special ability associated with it. When you're allowed to take one of these baby tokens, you choose which one you want from any of the 3. Well, it has to be whatever color you discarded. So if I discarded a green bamboo piece, I'd be able to take one of the green ones, but I could choose which of the 3 I want, assuming they're still available. Then I just put it in front of me for the points at the end, and I could take the action. So this one is actually the only ability in the game that lets you cycle a card from your hand. You take one of the objective cards from your hand, put it on the bottom of its deck, and then take the top one from that deck. Then you have irrigation. This simply lets you take one of the irrigation channels. And then this one lets you take one of the improvements, again, if they are still available. That's it. Every color is the same. You choose one of those particular tiles. Lastly, we're going to go over the new objectives. Here are the new plot objectives. You have a bunch there's 6 for each, by the way. You have 3 of them which simply require out on the board in the tableau of plot tiles that you have that many tiles of that color that are irrigated. So if I have if there are 5 pink plot tiles out in the garden and all of them are irrigated, no matter what configuration they're in, I can claim this objective. There's one for green and then there's one for yellow. Notice that they are different quantities depending on the number of them, since there are more of certain tiles. Then you have these, which are really tough to do. Much like with the original plot objectives, you have to have certain tiles, certain plots in a specific configuration, but in this case, you need to have 2 plots of the particular colors in that arrangement. And in between them, you must have one of the new plot tiles that has the female panda symbol on them. So one of these 6 tiles in between those, which is easier said than done, I assure you. Then you have new gardener objectives. These ones look very similar to the originals, but what this is, notice that each of the stacks of bamboo here are of different heights. You have to have this exact configuration. So if for the yellow, it would have to be 4 yellows on one plot, 3 yellows on another plot, and 2 on another, and also with the pink, and also with the green, and so on. And then these, let me see if I can explain this properly. You need to have this many stacks of bamboo of the appropriate color. Notice that it's different. You have 5 here, 7 here, 6 here. You need to have that many stacks of bamboo that have to be at least 2, but they could be more. That's what the plus symbol means there. So as long as I have 5 pink stacks of bamboo, all of them at least 2, I would be able to claim this. So it's kind of difficult to do, but not necessarily, probably equivalent in difficulty to most of the original Gardener plot objectives. And then finally, the Panda Objectives. And I always remind people these are tiebreakers because that has mattered for me twice. Believe it or not, 2 times I have lost, and both times I lost, actually, based on it coming down to a tie and me not having more Panda Objectives. In any case, these all function exactly the same as the original Panda Objectives, with one important difference. In order to claim them, the Panda must be on one of the new fountain, either the original fountain tile, the central plot, or the new one, the Celestial Pond. One of the main irrigation plots, the Panda has to be on it. Then you can claim this card and remove the bamboo from your stock. I don't know what that's supposed to thematically represent. Is he pooping in the pool? I don't know. I'll leave it up to your imagination. That's what the joke was in our group. But that's essentially it. Otherwise, they function just like the others. You have to have that configuration of bamboo on your player board, and then you remove it. So that is the stuff that comes in the new Takenoko Chibis expansion. Obviously, the babies are the central point there, but obviously there's also new tiles, new objectives, and so on. Let's get to my final thoughts. Chibis is an excellent expansion for Takenoko. It does not change the game in any kind of fundamental way. If you liked Takenoko before, you'll like the expansion. If you didn't like Takenoko before, this is definitely not going to change your mind. This integrates not seamlessly with the original game, but it doesn't really make that much of a ripple, and it's not too hard just to pick up the rules and get going with them. Shuffle in the tiles, shuffle in the cards, and you're good to go. You may not necessarily, I think it would be pretty impossible to not use the female panda. Even though there's only the 6 new tiles, it's pretty likely those are going to come up, but you don't even have to do the action with the female panda if you don't want to in order to get the tokens. It's a good idea to do so, but I've found that some strategies work really well with just completely ignoring her, even if the other players are going after the baby panda tokens. They're each worth 2 points, and that is not insignificant. I've had a lot of games of Takenoko that either ended in a tie, where it came down to the tiebreaker of panda cards, or it was within a couple of points. So 2 points from a panda token is a big deal, but bear in mind that you are using the food, the bamboo growths from the male panda in order to make the baby pandas. Don't ask me how that works thematically, but there you have it. So, but my point being that by doing that, you might be neglecting getting other objectives, the panda objectives, and actually using your action for other things other than moving the female panda around, which is required to make those tokens. But I do think that thematically it's really cool. I like the idea of them. I like that each of them gives you different abilities, somewhat similar to how you can get the improvement tiles. One of them gives you improvement tiles. And I just like that you have that other option there. Now, I also like the new tiles that come with the game, which really, if I was going to, a couple of criticisms I have of this expansion, one of them would be that I wish there was more of those tiles, because those really add a cool flavor to the game. The one that counts as all 3 different types of bamboo growths and can grow all 3. The ones that let the shrines or the temples that let bamboo of a certain color grow everywhere out on the board, or the collection of tiles. Those are really cool, and I wish for more of those in the future. Like I said, this expansion is not like a huge drastic change to the game. Kind of wish that it was. I think my main criticism is simply that Takenoko, because it is such a simple game in and of itself, it's just a family weight gateway game. It could really stand to have some drastic changes to the game, like modular stuff that you can add in that does something really, really different, whereas this one is not really that, which is both good and bad in some ways. But like I said, I like all the tiles, I like the tokens, I do like the tiles that are not bamboo growths necessarily, the one that counts as a different irrigation source, a new fountain, or the one with the bridge on it, and the one that just counts for you. You move the gardener there and you can draw new objectives. That's actually great. I've had a lot of games of this where either I or someone else that I'm playing with gets totally screwed because they just get objectives that are just impossible, and they don't give them very many points to begin with. One of my criticisms of the main game is that some objectives, which are really, really difficult, give a really startling lack of points compared to other objectives. Well, now you between the token from the baby pandas that lets you get rid of a card and get a new one, which by the way is the only way to get rid of a card from your hand, and now the tile that lets the plot, I should be calling them, that lets you draw cards from each of the top of the stacks and choose the one that you want. that gives you a lot more versatility in getting the objectives that you need, or just ones that are better than the ones that you had before. I also really like the new objective cards, because I think these are a new and interesting way in order to score points. They're very, very difficult because, or at least the ones that require you to have the Miss Panda tiles, like Miss Pac-Man, Miss Panda tiles out on the board, because it has to be in a very specific spot, and it's much harder to do that. But again, it's just another option for you, and I think that that's one of the things the game needed with its objective cards, was just more variability and more options. So, all in all, solid expansion. Again, this is not going to change anyone's opinion of the game, I don't think, but if you do enjoy Takenoko greatly, certainly, and if you have the original version of the game, not the collector's edition, that's a bummer for me, unfortunately. But if you do enjoy the game, definitely check this one out. I think it's worth it. I think it'll give you just enough variability to the game to keep it fresh for you, at least for a little while longer. And hopefully we'll see more expansions in the future. That is Takenoko Chibis from Madagot and Bombix. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.